I look at the things that are a concern to me that were a big problem recently, including locking down of societies, the draconian, militant, especially in places, other countries other than America, but even in some American cities. And I really asked, like, what governors locked down the people? They used any excuse they could right away to clamp down and become authoritarian. Like, who did that? And every single one of them were Democrats, especially the governor of Oregon at the time, who said that they would arrest people in their own homes if they gathered more than whatever the allotted number, 10 to 15 people in their own homes for the holidays. You could get arrested. So that's where liberal ideas can pave the way to leftist hell, because tons of liberals are like, oh, they're saying what I want to hear and what I like. Yeah, they're like, oh, sustainability, and they vote for leftists who lie, and then they get authoritarian power. This November, I'm wondering, who locked you down? Who mandated experimental gene therapy?
As a company buyer in cell and gene therapy, which to me is one of these examples where really we're going to make a difference, hopefully, moving forward. There's some, ultimately the mRNA vaccines are an example for that cell and gene therapy. I always like to say, if we had surveyed 2 years ago in the public, would you be willing to take gene or cell therapy and inject it into your body, we would have probably had a 95% refusal rate. I think this pandemic has also opened many people's eyes to innovation in the way that was maybe not possible before.
On millions of individuals who were unwilling but were forced if they wanted to keep their job. And the president tried to do it to everybody.
My message to unvaccinated Americans is this: what more is there to wait for? What more do you need to see? We've made vaccinations free, safe, and convenient. The vaccine has FDA approval. Over 200 million Americans have gotten at least one shot. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us. So please do the right thing. Increase vaccinations among the unvaccinated with new vaccination requirements. With nearly 80 million eligible Americans who have not gotten vaccinated.
And thankfully the Supreme Court smacked it down and said that's unconstitutional. But just imagine if he did that. What if the Supreme Court was slightly tilted in a more liberal manner? Then you know they're going to pass mandatory vaccinations as soon as they can. So that is dangerous, because there are millions of individuals who want nothing to do with that. They shouldn't be forced. There is no, they kept moving the goalposts from the beginning, and they're like, oh, you won't get it at all. This is 90% effective. Then they're like, well, actually, maybe it's like 75% effective, and you might get it, but you won't be hospitalized. You won't die.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. Hey, folks, guess you heard this morning I tested positive for COVID.
And when people are vaccinated, they can feel safe that they are not going to get infected.
Dr. Fauci says he has COVID again.
If you've done the right thing and gotten vaccinated, you deserve the freedom to be safe from COVID-19. And this morning, I learned I tested positive for COVID-19 as well.
With 3 doses that you be prevented not just from serious illness, but from getting this virus, this Omicron variant, and therefore giving it to others.
Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews is in quarantine for 7 days after testing positive to COVID.
All those things are lies and goalposts that have moved, and those lies, or it's either negligence or nefarious. They either were wrong too many times, so we're done with you, or they did it on purpose. Let me know if, like, in a comment, if there's any other option. But that's all I could think of. And I don't have a dog in the fight. I didn't like Trump or Hillary at all. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016, the Green Party. And then as I did more research, I found out that green's just another shade of blue. Who locked you down? who mandated experimental medicine so far and how it's been pushed on kids who are at like less risk than the flu, the regular flu, and yet they're going to be forced to take this in some areas of California. Newsom's a nut about it. Just name one person on the left who spoke out against the authoritarianism, the medical tyranny. And also they're all like, you know, happy-go-lucky with the World Economic Forum. You should see the way Klaus talks about Biden.
I'm very honored and pleased to introduce the Honorable Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States. I'm so pleased to see you back here in Davos, because I remember before you assumed your position as Vice President of the United States, you came here as a senator, you came here as the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the Senate. And I have to say, in my memory, you were one of the most engaged and hardest working participants here at the annual meeting. I watched you in the morning up to midnight sometimes, one engagement after the other one. Of course, we welcome you now.
That's not the kind of globalism we want. Like that is a technocracy they're talking about. Klaus Schwab talks about how we're going to have microchips in us and stuff.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
But can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. Is it imaginable?
I think that is imaginable.
It's at the end, what the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
We don't want to do anything he says. We should all outright reject him and say, hey, dude, if you want microchips, go ahead. But chill out. Don't act like you're going to control the world. Why are we accepting this? And am I wrong to think that the left is lockstep with some of these NGOs that have their goals planned out for lockdowns, and now they're all concerned about climate change, and oh, the lockdowns are good for climate. What can I think of next? Smart cities. Like, what road do we want to go down? No, neither side's perfect, but at least there is a movement that is against all of this control and wants to go kind of back to basics and say, hey, wait, this is not the way the world's supposed to be run. We don't think it'd be a good idea if there's a one world government. You know, that's where it's leading if you let them. So don't let them. Stay human.